Good morning, students. Welcome to today's online class. In this class, we are going to continue the discussion about the gametogenesis in a female human being, that is oogenesis, which already we started in last class. In last class, we discussed about the formation of. So in that, there are three phases I gave you. We discussed about the growth of ovarian follicle, and along with that, the modifications in the oocyte. So the growth of follicles and maturation of oocyte both takes place simultaneously. As already I told you, oogenesis is a long time taking process. It begins in the fetal life, but it will be completed only after puberty. So it requires a long period of preparatory time. After puberty only, the first worm will be produced. So that we discussed in last class. Now we will continue same topic. Once you can recall what you learned in last class. In first phase, that is multiplication phase. In the multiplication phase, what will happen here? In the multiplication phase of oogenesis, the primordial germ cells of the primordial germ cells of ovaries undergo repeated mitotic divisions that leads to production of a couple of million of oogonia in each ovary, and after that this oogonia will enter into the stroma, especially into the cortex of the ovary in the form of a tuber plug. Later that will modify into egg nest. In each egg nest, only one oogonium will grow in size and modifies into a primary oocyte. The remaining oogonia will lose its ability to modify into primary oocyte, and that will become flat and form a single layer of cells around the primary oocyte, which is known as follicular epithelium. Now this follicle is known as primordial follicle. After that, the primordial follicle will modify into primary follicle. In the primary follicle, the primary oocyte will be surrounded by a single layer of granulosa cells. This layer is membrana granulosa. In the primary follicle, the primary oocyte begins meiosis 1, but it is temporarily arrested in the diploidine of prophase 1. Later, primary follicle will be converted into secondary follicle, where the primary oocyte will be surrounded by multi-layered membrana granulosa along with two theca layers, theca interna and theca externa. Now theca interna starts secretion of estrogen. Later secondary follicle will modify into tertiary follicle. Secondary follicle will modify into tertiary follicle, where there is formation of a fluid filled cavity or antrum in between membrana granulosa. The granular cells will split into two layers, inner and outer layers, that led to formation of a cavity. Later, this cavity will fill with a fluid, which is known as liquor folliculi, which is secreted by granulosa cells. Later, what will happen here is, this fluid-filled cavity is known as antrum. The presence of antrum is the character of tertiary follicle. Now, the newly formed inner layer of membrana granulosa is known as corona radiata. In this tertiary follicle, the secondary oocyte complete meiosis 1, that leads to formation of two unequal cells, a small first polar body and a large secondary oocyte. Already I told you why these are unequal in size, due to unequal cytokinesis. Most of the cytoplasm retain into the secondary oocyte, but very little amount of cytoplasm will enter into the first polar body. Okay, because of that only the polar body will be degenerated soon due to lack of sufficient cytoplasm, or due to lack of sufficient nutrition. It will be degenerated because it does not have any role in the formation of ovum. It is only to form a haploid cell. Only to form haploid cells it is present there. Only to form haploid cells it is present there. That also you have to remember. And after completion of that, one more thing you have to remember here. After formation of secondary oocyte, then what will happen is one more. First polar body, secondary oocyte formed in the tertiary follicle, and after formation of tertiary follicle, after formation of tertiary follicle, in the tertiary follicle, the secondary oocyte immediately begin meiosis 2. But meiosis 2 is temporarily arrested in metaphase. Meiosis 2 is arrested in metaphase due to metaphase promoting factor. Okay, later this tertiary follicle will grow in size and modifies into a mature follicle or Graafian follicle. This Graafian follicle will move towards the surface of the ovary that will exert a pressure on the surface of ovary that leads to rupture of surface membrane. Later what will happen due to the action of luteinizing hormone, the membranes which are present around the secondary oocyte, especially the theca externa, theca interna, and membrana granulosa will be ruptured. That leads to release of secondary oocyte along with zona pellucida and corona radiata into body cavity, which is known as ovulation. Later, this secondary oocyte along with zona pellucida and corona radiata will be collected by the fimbria of fallopian tubes, and that will enter into the fallopian tube. In the fallopian tube, when the sperm will come in contact, when the sperm will come in contact with the ovum or secondary oocyte, then only it will complete meiosis 2 by the action of anaphase promoting factor, anaphase promoting complex, anaphase promoting factor APF or anaphase promoting complex APC. See, this anaphase promoting factor or anaphase promoting complex break down metaphase promoting factor. So whenever sperm will come in contact with the secondary oocyte, immediately this stimulus leads to breakdown of metaphase promoting factor by the releasing of anaphase promoting complex. Then the cell will complete meiosis 2 that leads to formation of a large oocyte and a small second polar body. This large oocyte further modifies into ovum. Large oocyte will modify into ovum. That you have to remember. Is it clear? So that is about the topic that we discussed in last class. Okay. Now we will continue the same topic. So after releasing of ovum or after releasing of secondary oocyte in the human being, what is the fate of ruptured follicle or Graafian follicle? Ruptured Graafian follicle. So observe here. It is so here in this ovary up to release of secondary oocyte I gave you. And after that, now what is the topic we are going to discuss? After releasing of secondary oocyte, what is the fate of this ruptured Graafian follicle? So here, these are granulosa cells that are also ruptured, and outside the granulosa, theca interna it is, and theca externa, all this. After releasing of secondary oocyte from here, it is the ruptured follicle, ruptured Graafian follicle. What is the fate of this ruptured Graafian follicle? What is the fate of this collapsed Graafian follicle? So Graafian follicle released. One second, just wait. Okay, observe now. So here, after ovulation, that is release of secondary oocyte from the Graafian follicle, this ruptured follicle which is present here immediately filled with blood clot. By the rupture of this membranes, that leads to release of blood. So immediately after release of secondary oocyte, this ruptured follicle or collapsed follicle will be filled with blood clot. Okay, so that is known as Corpus. Corpus means a body. It is a new body now. Corpus hemoraceum. Corpus hemoraceum. What is corpus hemoraceum? What is corpus hemoraceum? Write down now. What is corpus hemoraceum? Already I repeated many times. There are two resting phases in oogenesis. First in meiosis 1, another one is in meiosis 2. In meiosis 1, the primary oocyte begins meiosis 1, but it is temporarily arrested in prophase 1 of, diplotin of prophase 1. In the diplotin phase of prophase 1, meiosis 1 is temporarily arrested due to lack of sufficient amount of estrogen. And the second resting phase, that is in meiosis 2, the secondary oocyte begins meiosis 2, but it is temporarily arrested in metaphase of meiosis 2. If you don't know what is meiosis, what are the phases in the meiosis, I cannot able to explain you all that again. Some students are asking what is metaphase, what is arrested in metaphase, all that. Already I told you, secondary oocyte begins meiosis 2, but it is not completed immediately. It is arrested in metaphase. Then what is metaphase, what is meiosis means, that all you will go back and learn all that again and come to this class. Okay, that you have to remember. So it is arrested in metaphase. In meiosis 2, in which phase it will be arrested? In metaphase, because of releasing of a protein, that is metaphase promoting factor. Later, whenever there is releasing of anaphase promoting complex, anaphase promoting complex or anaphase releasing factor, then it will complete meiosis 2. When anaphase promoting factor or anaphase promoting complex will release, whenever the sperm will come in contact with the secondary oocyte, that acts as a stimulus. Then only that will take place, that you have to remember, right? So now come to this topic. So after releasing of secondary oocyte, the ruptured follicle or the collapsed Graafian follicle will be filled with blood clot, which is known as corpus hemoraceum. What is corpus hemoraceum? So here, after releasing of secondary oocyte, the ruptured Graafian follicle or the ruptured matured follicle will be filled with blood clot. That will be filled with blood clot known as corpus hemoraceum. Corpus hemoraceum, that you have to remember. And after that, the cells, the granulosa cells or follicular cells which are present inside the ruptured follicle will secrete an yellow color phospholipid, yellow color carotenoid, carotenoids, that is lutein. So later, after formation of corpus hemoraceum, the follicular cell secretes an yellow color pigment, yellow color carotenoid, which is lutein. So later, this follicle will fill with a carotenoid, that is lutein, and it appear in yellow color. That is known as corpus luteum. Corpus luteum. Corpus luteum. Corpus luteum. What is corpus luteum? Corpus hemoraceum clear. Now corpus luteum. Lutein is one second. Corpus luteum. What is corpus luteum? Corpus luteum is an yellow color body. An yellow color. Corpus means body. Luteum is yellow color pigment. Corpus luteum is the ruptured Graafian follicle will modifies into an yellow color body known as corpus luteum. The ruptured Graafian follicle, after releasing of a carotenoid lutein, and it will be filled with lutein. Whenever it will be filled with lutein, it appears in yellow color. So this yellow color body is known as corpus luteum. What is corpus luteum means? Yellow. Corpus means body. Luteum means yellow. So yellow color body. Yellow color body. So once again I am repeating. The ruptured graphene follicle will turns into an yellow color body known as corpus luteum. This acts as a temporary endocrine gland and secretes progesterone hormone. Very important. What is corpus luteum and what is the function of corpus luteum? The ruptured graphene follicle will modifies into an yellow color body known as corpus luteum. The ruptured graphene follicle will modifies into an yellow color body known as corpus luteum. This corpus luteum acts as a temporary endocrine gland and secretes progesterone hormone. So it acts as a temporary endocrine gland and secretes the pregnancy hormone in female, that is progesterone. So progesterone is secreted by corpus luteum. Progesterone is secreted by corpus luteum. Very important that we have to remember. So two definitions I gave you here. What is corpus hemoraceum? What is corpus luteum? Corpus hemoraceum, it is immediately after releasing of secondary oocyte due to rupture of membranes present around the oocyte that leads to bleeding, and that blood clot will completely occupy the ruptured follicle. So if the ruptured follicle is occupied by blood clot, that is corpus hemoraceum. What is the color of this? It appears in red color, but later it will be completely absorbed. And after that, what will happen here? The follicular cell secretes. The follicular cells secretes here, ma'am. The follicular cell secretes an yellow color pigment, that is lutein. Now it is completely occupied by lutein, so it will appear in yellow color. This yellow color body acts as a temporary endocrine gland which secretes progesterone, and it is known as corpus luteum. Is it clear? Corpus luteum. What is corpus luteum? The ruptured graphene follicle will modify into an yellow color body known as corpus luteum. The ruptured graphene follicle will modify into a yellow color body known as corpus luteum. What is the function of corpus luteum? Corpus luteum acts as temporary endocrine gland. Corpus luteum acts as temporary endocrine gland and secrete the pregnancy hormone in female, that is progesterone. Progesterone is secreted by corpus luteum. Okay, right. After formation of corpus luteum, if there is fertilization takes place in the female, then corpus luteum will remain throughout the pregnancy and secretes progesterone, which is required to maintain endometrium of the uterus. So the endometrium is in layer where the exact implantation and embryonic development takes place. So with the increase of gestation period, that endometrium must be increased in the thickness. So to maintain that which is required, progesterone is required. If fertilization takes place, corpus luteum remains throughout the pregnancy and secretes the progesterone. It will remain maximum up to 6th or 7th month of pregnancy, and after that placenta begins the secretion of progesterone. But majority of the gestation period, which structure secretes the progesterone to maintain the endometrium of uterus? Corpus luteum. So corpus luteum will continue secretion of progesterone throughout the pregnancy. So if there is fertilization, corpus luteum will continue secretion of progesterone throughout the pregnancy. This corpus luteum will be maintained throughout the pregnancy by the action of LH hormone. So to maintain the corpus luteum, which hormone is required? LH is required. Luteinizing hormone is required for the maintenance of corpus luteum. Once again, I am repeating, don't confuse. If the fertilization will be done, corpus luteum will remain throughout the pregnancy and that will secrete the progesterone, which is essential for the maintenance of endometrium of uterus for the embryonic development. Is it clear? For the embryonic development of fetus, it is required, endometrium. If there is no fertilization, if fertilization takes place, then only corpus luteum will remain throughout the pregnancy to secrete the progesterone, which is must for maintenance of pregnancy or maintenance of endometrium for pregnancy. If there is no fertilization, what will happen to the corpus luteum? If fertilization cannot take place, corpus luteum will be degenerated and it will appear like a small white color scale or mole. So after, for example, if you will cut any of your finger by accidentally, after healing of this wound, there will be a scare or mole. So here also, whenever corpus luteum will be degenerated, if fertilization cannot take place, what will happen? If fertilization cannot take place, corpus luteum will be degenerated. Corpus luteum will be degenerated and that will remain in the form of a white color mole or a white color scare. A white color scare is remain in the ovary. That indicates the degenerated corpus luteum, and this white color body, if fertilization cannot take place, corpus luteum will be degenerated and that will be modified into a white color body or a scare. A white color body or a white color scare, which is known as corpus albicans. Corpus albicans. Albumin, you all know that. Which color? White color. So corpus body. Corpus albicans means white color body. Corpus albicans means white color body, that we have to remember here. Is it clear? So that is the important thing you have to remember here in this. There are three concepts I gave you here. What are the three concepts I gave you here? Corpus hemorrhagium, corpus luteum, corpus albicans. The sequence of formation also important. Which will form first, in these three, which will form first? The first formed is corpus hemorrhagium. What is corpus hemorrhagium? What is corpus hemorrhagium? The ruptured Graafian follicle will filled with blood clot, which is known as corpus hemorrhagium. Next, what is corpus luteum? The ruptured Graafian follicle will be filled with yellow color carotenoid, that is lutein, and modifies into yellow color body known as corpus luteum. Corpus luteum acts as a temporary endocrine gland and secrete progesterone, which is essential for the maintenance of endometrium during the pregnancy. Because of that only, progesterone is known as pregnancy hormone. And to maintain this corpus luteum, which is required, luteinizing hormone is required. Luteinizing hormone is required. Next, if fertilization takes place, corpus luteum will be maintained throughout the pregnancy and secretes the progesterone. So to maintain corpus luteum throughout the pregnancy, which hormone is essential? That is luteinizing hormone or LH, that you have to keep in your mind. And after completion of that, if there is no fertilization, what is the fate of corpus luteum? If there is no fertilization, corpus luteum will be degenerated. Corpus luteum will be degenerated and it will be modified into a white color body or a white color scare in the ovary. That white color body or scare in the ovary is known as corpus albicans. This corpus albicans indicates the degenerated corpus luteum. It indicates the location of degenerated corpus luteum. Is it clear? So the three you have to remember here. After releasing of ovum, what will happen here? Right? When the corpus luteum will be remain throughout the pregnancy, if LH is available, then only it is possible. If there is no fertilization, what will happen? Corpus luteum will be degenerated. Corpus luteum will be degenerated if there is no pregnancy or if there is no fertilization. That's clear. And after completion of this, up to that, oogenesis is almost completed. Oogenesis is almost completed, that you have to keep in your mind, right? Now, some more details we will discuss in the oogenesis. As already I told you, oogenesis or production of ovum will begin only after puberty, after 12 to 14 years. Okay, the first menstruation or the first production of ovum is known as menarche. Menarche is the first menstruation or the production of ovum for the first time by a female after puberty. And menopause, it is a cessation of menstrual cycle. Menstruation will be stopped and ovum production will be completely stopped. So a female can produce a ovum in between menarche and menopause only. So female can produce the ova in between menarche and menopause. Menarche begins at 10 to 12 years of age, menopause around 50 years. So almost 40 years a female can able to produce the ova. 40 years a female can able to produce the ova. But during pregnancy there is no ovulation. During pregnancy, that is 9 months of period, there will be no production of ovum. After pregnancy, a maximum of 6 months. 6 months there will be no ovulation. That you have to remember here. Is it clear? You shall erase this. Okay. So now here, the female can produce ova in between menarche to menopause. Menarche to menopause. It begins at 10 to 12 years of age, and menopause is around 50 years of age. Also, a maximum of 40 years. A female can produce ova a maximum of 40 years. Okay. But during pregnancy, there is no ovulation. And after pregnancy, due to lactation, that is the production of milk, there will be no pregnancy for a maximum of 6 months. So if a female will get a baby, almost 15 months there will be no release of ovum. So 9 months during pregnancy and 6 months during the lactation. So total 15 months. 15 months there will be no menstrual cycle in a female. So 15 months there is no ovulation or oogenesis. Oogenesis will be stopped during pregnancy and after pregnancy a maximum of 6 months due to lactation. So that you have to remember. Actually, I gave you formation of ovarian follicles in each ovary. Formation of ovarian follicles, which will modify into primary follicle, secondary follicle, tertiary follicle, and finally Graafian follicle. To produce a single ovum, one Graafian follicle is required. Okay. So whenever a follicle will grow in size and modifies into a mature follicle or Graafian follicle, then only there is chances for the releasing of ovum. That also you have to remember. Here, in a female, in each ovary, how many follicles will form? Already I gave you, in each ovary, how many oogonia will be produced? In each ovary, a couple of million of oogonia. That means 2 millions of oogonia are produced in each ovary. Then what is the number of ovarian follicles? How many follicles will produce? A maximum of 6 lakh. A maximum of 6 lakh follicles will form. How many follicles will produce in ovary of a female? That is 6 lakhs. Of this 6 lakh ovary, majority of the ovarian follicles, majority of the follicles will be degenerated between birth and puberty, between the period birth and puberty. So here there is follicles. How many follicles are there? There is production of 6 lakh follicles. 6 lakh follicles by 2 million. By 2 million oogonia, there is formation of around 6 lakh follicle in each ovary. And after formation of this 6 lakh follicles, majority of these follicles will be degenerated in between birth and puberty. And after puberty, only 60,000 to 80,000 follicles will remain in each ovary. In each ovary, how many will remain after puberty? 60,000 to 80,000 follicles only remain. In each ovary, during fetal life, there is formation of 6 lakh follicles. But majority of these ovarian follicles are primary follicles mainly. So majority of these primary follicles will degenerated in between birth and puberty. After puberty, how many will be remain in each ovary? Only 60 to 80,000 primary follicles will remain in each ovary. So 6 lakh follicles were produced, but how many remain after puberty? Only 60 to 80,000. What about remaining all follicles? Remaining all follicles are degenerated. So the degeneration of follicles in between birth to puberty is known as follicular atresia. Follicular atresia, important ma? Follicular atresia. What is follicular atresia? Follicular atresia. The degeneration of primary follicles in between birth and puberty. The degeneration of primary follicles between birth and puberty is known as follicular atresia. What is follicular atresia or what is atretic follicles? Atretic follicles or follicular atresia. What is this? The degeneration of primary follicles in between birth and puberty. In between birth and puberty is known as follicular atresia. Actually, there is formation of 6 lakh follicles in each ovary in the fetal life. But in between birth and puberty, majority of these will be degenerated and only 60 to 80,000 follicles will remain after puberty. After puberty, how many follicles will remain in each ovary of a female? 60 to 80,000 only. But how many are produced in the fetal life? 6 lakhs are produced. And what about the remaining? Remaining all are degenerated. That is known as follicular atresia. Why this many are produced and this many are degenerated? So the follicle will grow inside and modifies into a mature follicle or Graafian follicle. Then only the production of bone takes place. See, if there is production of a limited number of follicles, if that follicle is improperly developed or if there is any defect in the follicle, that may causes for failure in the production of ovum, that may leads to infertility or sterility of the person. So to overcome from that, there is production of more number. But why there is a degeneration of that many? Because after formation of this many of follicles, it is difficult to supply nourishment and maintenance of this many. Because of that, majority of this will be degenerated. Is it clear? Why there is production of more ovarian follicle to overcome from any manufactured defects, or any abnormal formations or any deformities in the follicles, there is production of more. After formation, why majority will degenerate? After formation, it is difficult to maintain that many of number of follicles. Because of that, it is not easy to supply nutrients or nourishment to that many of follicles. Because of that, that will be degenerated. Which is known as follicular atresia. Follicular atresia. Here, one more problem we have to notice. Here, 60 to 80,000 follicles will remain in each ovary after puberty, right? But how many will modifies into mature follicle or Graafian follicle? In this, how many will modifies into mature follicle or Graafian follicle? That also you have to notice. how many will modifies into a mature follicle or a Graafian follicle? Tell me now, how many will modifies into a mature follicle or Graafian follicle? Already I told you, to produce one ovum, one Graafian follicle. Okay, to produce one ovum, one Graafian follicle or one mature follicle is required. Now, how many will modifies into a mature follicles or Graafian follicles here? Observe. So I told you already, a maximum of how many years a female can produce the ova? Maximum of 40 years without pregnancies. As already I told you, if pregnancy is there, how many months of time? There will be no chances for ovulation. 15 months there will be no ovulation. So 15 months there will be no production of ovum. Okay. Now, if a female will produce the ova 40 years, a maximum of 40 years, how many ova will be produced by that female? That's my question. How many ova will be produced by a female without any kids, without children? If menarche begins at 10 years, menopause will come at 50 years. So a maximum of 40 years, they will produce the ova. So in every month, in every menstrual cycle, one ovum. So total, how many ova will be produced per 1 year? Per 1 year, 12 ova. So 40 years if the female will produce, how many ova will be there? 40 years. In every year, 12. So what is it? So that is 480 ova. A maximum of how many ova will be produced by a female? 480 in her lifetime. A female can produce a maximum of how many ova? I am giving you here the maximum possibilities are 480, around 480. Okay. So sometimes if there is any improper menstrual cycle or if there is any disturbance in the oogenesis, at that time if there is no production of ova. So here maximum 480 means it is not exact number, it is plus or minus for it. A non-pregnant or the female without kids. If a female have 2 children, what will happen? What is the number actually? 2 or 3 children, what will happen? For one kid, there will be no ovulation for 15 months. The maximum of 15 months, there will be no ovulation. So if a female have 2 kids, so 15 plus 15, 30 months, there was no ovulation. So 30 ova or 30 ova we have to remove from here. So what is the number of ova produced by a female with 2 kids? What is the number of ova produced by a female? A maximum number of ova they will ask in exam. What is the maximum number of ova produced by a female who has 3 kids or 2 kids? If 2 kids, what is the number? 480 minus 30. Because for one kid, during 9 months of pregnancy, there is no ovulation. After 9 months, the maximum of 6 months, there will be no ovulation. So 15 months, there will be no production of ova. For 2 kids, 30 months, there will be no ova production. So total 450 ova may produced by that female. Okay. So 450 ova will be produced by that female. Right? If a female has more kids, automatically the number of ova produced by that female will be reduced. So, what is the average number of ova produced by a female in her lifetime? The average number of ova produced by a female in her lifetime is 420 to 450, we can say. How many ova will be produced by a female in her lifetime? What is the average number of ova produced by a female in her lifetime? 422, 450. 422, 450, right? Now come here. Observe here. So how many follicles are remain in the ovary after puberty? After puberty, how many follicles are remain in the ovary in the ovaries? 60 to 80,000. In this 60 to 80,000, how many will modify into Graafian follicle or mature follicle? That's my question. So there is formation of 6 lakh follicles. Majority will be degenerated in between birth and puberty, which is known as follicular atresia. After puberty, 60 to 80,000 follicles remain. 60 to 80,000 follicles remain in each ovary. But a female can produce the maximum of 420 to 450 or 460 ova. Okay. Then how many follicles will modifies into a mature follicle or Graafian follicle? One follicle will produce one ovum. One follicle will produce one ovum. Here, how many ova will produce? 422, 450 ova. So, how many mature follicles or Graafian follicles will form? That is equal to number of ova produced. That is 422, 450. 422, 450 or 460 average. That's it. That will depend upon the number of kids. Already I told you. Okay. Right here, how many Graafian follicles or mature follicles will form in a female in her lifetime? An average of 420 to 450 Graafian follicles or mature follicles will be formed. But there are two ovaries. In each ovary, how many Graafian follicles will form? By two ovaries, 420 to 450. By each ovary, that is a maximum of 210 to 215 or 220 maximum. 220 or 225. Okay, about 230 only, maximum 230. So here in each ovary, how many mature follicles or Graafian follicles will be formed? 210 to 230 out of 60 to 80,000. Out of 60 to 80,000 follicles, how many follicles will modify into mature follicle or Graafian follicle? Only 210 to 230 modifies into mature follicle or Graafian follicle. That only produces the ovum. What about remaining all follicle? Remaining all follicles will be degenerated after menopause. After menopause, there is no production of ova. So that will be degenerated after menopause. That you have to remember. Is it clear? So 6 lakh follicles will form. 60 to 80,000 will remain in the ovaries after puberty. And in this 60 to 80,000, only 210 to 230 modifies into matured follicles or Graafian follicles. Remaining all will be degenerated after menopause. So a female can produce a maximum of 480 ova if menarche begin at 10 years and menopause at 50 years. If a maximum of 40 years, if a female will produce the ova, if a female will produce the ova, how many ova will be possible? 480 ova will be possible. If there is pregnancy, okay, or if a female will get the kids, in that particular period, there will be no ovulation. There is no production of ovum. So here I gave you already all the data. Okay. They may ask this type of questions also. Now one question for you. How many ova can be produced by a female in 5 years of time? How many ova can be produced by a female in 5 years of time without children? Very simple question I gave you here. How many ova will be produced by a female? How many ova will be produced by a female? How many ova will be produced by a female in 5 years of time without children, without a pregnancy? How many ova? Very simple. For 1 year, 12 ova. So for 5 years, 12 into 5, 60 ova will be produced. 60 ova will be produced because there is no pregnancies or there is no children. Okay, produced during this phase. Next, one more question. Exactly same like this. How many ova will be produced by a female in 6 years of time? In 6 years of time, during which during which the female got 2 children. During which the female got 2 children. My question, how many ova will be produced by a female in 6 years of time, during which the female got 2 children or 2 kids? 2 kids. So what is the number? Very easy. You can easily answer this type of questions, I know. So 12 into 6, 72. But what I gave here, 2 pregnancies. She got 2 kids, means for 1 kid, how many months? There is no menstrual cycle, there is no ovulation, or there is no production of ova. 15 months. So 15 plus 15, 30 months, there is no ovulation. So in this 72 ova, 30 ova are not produced. So what is the answer here? That is the 42. 42 ova will be produced. Very good, very good. Okay, 42 ova is produced by that female. That you have to remember. Next, one more question. One more question. What is the number of ova? What is the number of ova produced by an unmarried female in 3 years of time? What is the number of ova produced by an unmarried female in 3 years of time? 3 years of time, what is the number of ova produced by an unmarried female? So you are all answered. I know it is 36. Okay, but if they will particularly mention in the options as 36, 24, 0 and 48, what will be the answer you have to choose? What is the correct answer for this? Already I told you, in unmarried female means there is no insemination, there is no population, there is no insemination. If there is no insemination, how many secondary oocytes will complete meiosis II? Without contact with the sperm, the secondary oocyte cannot complete the meiosis II. So there will be no chances. There will be no chances for production of ovum, only secondary oocytes. So what is the number of ovum produced there? 0. Did you get my point? Why the ovum? I already gave 2 words clearly, secondary oocyte and ovum. Secondary oocyte will undergo meiosis II when the sperm will come in contact with the secondary oocyte. So if there is no population or if there is no insemination, to confuse you, they will give as a unmarried female. So in that unmarried female, the secondary oocyte cannot come in contact with the sperm. So without a contact with the sperm, secondary oocyte cannot undergo meiosis II. So there will be no chances of formation of any ova. Secondary oocyte will degenerate it. If they will particularly ask how many secondary oocytes, it is 36. No controversy in that. If they will ask secondary oocyte, it is 36. There is production of only secondary oocytes, but there is no production of ovum without copulation or insemination, especially in the human being. That you have to remember. In human being, whenever there is insemination, if the sperm will come in contact with the secondary oocyte, then only there will be chances for the conversion of secondary oocyte into ovum, right? So usually, just to confuse you, they will ask this type of questions, but normally these numbers you will remember how to identify. Okay, that you have to remember. Is it clear? Right? So that is about oogenesis. Almost all topics related to oogenesis is completed. Spermatogenesis completed. Oogenesis also completed. Is it clear? Is it clear? So all the data are related to oogenesis. Now, after completion of this oogenesis, we have to discuss about the structure of gametes in human being. The structure of male gametes and structure of female gametes. both we have to discuss. Okay, we will discuss about the structure of sperm and structure of ovum. Along with that, types of ovum or types of eggs, and all we have to discuss. We will discuss about all that after taking a short break. Okay, take 5 minutes of short. Observe, we are discussing the structure of human sperm, that is the male gamete. The human sperm is about 52 to 62 microns in length. 52 to 62 microns in length. As already I gave you, this sperm is singular, spermatozoa is plural. The spermatozoa, observe here, the spermatozoa are produced in the seminiferous tubules of the testes. The spermatozoa are produced in the seminiferous tubules of the testes, and this spermatozoa will be stored a maximum of 1 month in the epididymis. But when the spermatozoa will releases into the female genital tract or female body, it can survive a maximum of 24 to 48 hours. A maximum of 24 to 48 hours it can survive in the female body. So the lifespan of sperm in the epididymis is maximum of 30 days. Outside the body, that is in the female body, it is 24 to 48 hours, 1 to 2 days only. 1 to 2 days. So 24 to 48 hours it can survive in the female genital tract or female body. It is about 50 to 62 microns in the length, and it is divided into 4 parts: the head, neck, middle piece, and tail. So you have to know the diagrammatic representation. Very important, ma. They may ask this for PUC examinations. So here I am going to draw the diagrammatic view of a sperm. Just a diagrammatic view. In this diagrammatic view, how the sperm appears. Very short neck it is. Here, from here it is the longest. Is the tail. So here, observe carefully. First, I am going to draw the head region. Okay. So here, in the head region, Okay, so head region and neck is very short here. We cannot actually separately represent this because it is appear like a merged structure here. Just observe here. It is a very short region, that is the neck region. And after that, which is followed by middle piece. Okay, it is followed by middle piece. 1 second. Okay, middle piece. From the middle piece, you may notice here at last there is longest part. This is tail. So there are 4 parts. Okay, that is a structural or the diagrammatic representation of human sperm. In this diagrammatic representation, you may notice all 4 parts what I gave you already. So the anterior most region, the widest part in the sperm is head. So already I gave you what is the length of sperm. 52 to 62 microns. 52 to 62 microns is the length of sperm. 52 to 62 microns. The length of sperm is 52 to 62 microns. So these are 4 parts. So here observe carefully the anterior most region here. It is anterior most region and it is a head region. We can call this as a head. Okay. And after that, the shortest region here, the short, very short region. The short region is neck. Short region, that is neck, which connects the head with middle piece. Okay. And after that, the middle piece is connected with tail. Tail is the longest part. Tail is the longest part, which is connected with the middle piece. That is connected with middle piece. Okay. 1 second. Sorry. Okay, right. So here you will remember up to here how to draw this diagrammatic representation. So here this is the tail. Okay, that is the tail you have to remember, right? Now we will discuss about each part. What is the anterior most? This is the head. Head. It is neck, and it is already here there middle piece, and it is the tail. So there are four regions: head, neck, middle piece, and the tail regions. So here first we'll start with head. See, the anterior most flattened and pear shaped head is the anterior most flat, anterior most flattened and pear shaped structure. Pear shaped. The anterior most head is anterior most flat and pear shaped structure. It is about 4 to 5 microns in length. 4 to 5 microns in length. 4 to 5 microns in length and 2.5 to 3.5 microns. 3.5 microns in width. So head is anterior most part and it is flattened pear shaped structure. It is about 4 to 5 microns in length and 2.5 to 3.5 microns in width. Okay. See, this head contains two important parts: nucleus and acrosome. Nucleus and acrosome are the two parts present in the head region. So in the head region, there are two parts. One is nucleus, another one is the acrosome. Okay. So now observe here carefully. In this, there is, if you observe carefully this, actually this head is covered by plasma membrane. Head is covered by plasma membrane. Plasma membrane. Head is covered by plasma membrane, and inside the plasma membrane there are two parts. One is the large nucleus, another one is the small cap-like structure, acrosome. So in the head region there are two parts. What are the two parts? Acrosome and also nucleus. It is acrosome. Acrosome. Acrosome, that is, and it is nucleus. Acrosome and nucleus are the two parts there. As already I told you, nucleus here contain how many chromosomes in the sperm? Nucleus contain only 23 chromosomes. So it is haploid chromosomes are present in the nucleus. In the nucleus, haploid chromosomes are present, that you have to remember. So which chromosomes are present here? Only 23 haploid chromosomes are present inside the nucleus. It is nucleus. Inside it, there is genetic material. This genetic material, how many chromosomes are present? It is haploid in nature. There are only 23 chromosomes are present here. So like this, it is nucleus. And majority of the region in the head, majority of the portion in the head is occupied by the nucleus. Majority of the portion in the head region is occupied by this nucleus. This nucleus is actually a triangular nucleus. Nucleus is actually a triangular, or it is a pyramid shape. Pyramid shape or triangular nucleus is one of the very important character that present here. So that is very important that you have to remember here. And after completion of this, there is here observe acrosome. What is this acrosome? See, actually, the anterior most cap-like structure which is present, the anterior most cap-like structure which is present in the head of the sperm is acrosome. the anterior most, a cup-like structure, acrosome, which is also known as glia capitis. Other name of this glia capitis. Glia capitis. What is the other name of acrosome? Glia capitis. Important, ma? Acrosome. What is acrosome? The anterior most cup-like structure present above the nucleus in the head. Present above the nucleus in the head of the sperm. Present above the nucleus of the head of the sperm is known as. That is known as acrosome or glia capitis. Acrosome or glia capitis. That also you have to remember. Next, after completion of that acrosome, actually, I told you the sperm is developed by metamorphosis of spermatid. The sperms are developed by the metamorphosis of the spermatids. That I gave you as spermiogenesis. Spermiogenesis. What is spermiogenesis? The modification of immotile non-functional sperm. The modification of immotile non-functional spermatid into motile and functional sperm. Motile and functional sperm is known as spermiogenesis. Now, during the spermiogenesis, how this acrosome will be developed? How the acrosome or glia capitis is developed during the process of spermiogenesis. So here the Golgi bodies which are present in the spermatids, the Golgi bodies which are present in the spermatid will modify into acrosome in the sperm. That is very important. Acrosome in the sperm. So it is the modifications. The modifications are metamorphosis of spermatid into sperm. Which structures of spermatozoa are developed from which parts of a spermatid? That you have to know here. So here during metamorphosis or structural modification of spermatid into sperm, the Golgi bodies which are present in the spermatid will modify into acrosome or glia capitis. So that you have to remember. So acrosome is a modified Golgi body of spermatid. The acrosome in the sperm is a modified Golgi body of spermatid. That you have to remember. And this acrosome contains different type of hydrolytic enzymes and proteolytic enzymes. So it contains hydrolytic enzymes. Mainly, majority of the enzymes here are hydrolytic enzymes. So the acrosome contains hydrolytic enzymes. Which are the important hydrolytic enzymes present here is hyaluronic acid. Sorry, hyaluronidase is enzyme. Hyaluronidase, acrosin, neuraminidase, So hyaluronidase, acrosin, neuraminidase, and corona penetrating enzyme also there. Corona penetrating enzyme. It is actually a proteolytic enzyme, corona penetrating enzyme. Remaining all are hydrolytic enzymes. So acrosome contain hydrolytic and proteolytic enzymes. Which are the important enzymes that are present here? Hyaluronidase, acrosin, neuraminidase, and corona penetrating enzyme. Corona penetrating enzyme that are present. What is the use of these enzymes? What is the use of these enzymes? See, these enzymes are essential to break the membranes that present around the ovum. Already I told you, along with the secondary oocyte, two membranes are released. What are the two membranes? Zona pellucida and corona radiata. So the sperm have to, for example, see, it is a ovum. Around this ovum, there is zona pellucida, and outside this corona radiata is there. If a sperm will come in contact with this, to reach the secondary oocyte, the sperm have to break the corona radiata and zona pellucida. Then only the sperm will reach the secondary oocyte or ovum. Then only the fertilization will take place. So here observe. Is it clear? Okay. What is the use of hydrolytic and proteolytic enzymes that present in the acrosome? These hydrolytic and proteolytic enzymes are useful to break down the membranes that present around the ovum, and that will provide a chance to meet the sperm with ovum. Okay. So to break down the membranes which act as the barriers around the ovum, to break that, acrosome is essential, because these enzymes, hydrolytic enzymes and proteolytic enzymes, play an important role to break down the membranes that present around the ovum. Okay, without acrosome, there is no chances for breakdown of that membrane. Then there will be no chances for the fertilization also. Okay, so acrosome play an important role at the time of fertilization. We will discuss all the details at the time of fertilization. How this enzymes, hyaluronidase, acrosine, uraminidase, and corona penetrating enzyme play their role in the breakdown of zona pellucida and corona radiata during the fertilization. That we will discuss at the time of discussing the topic fertilization. So acrosome play an important role in the fertilization. And nucleus possesses haploid number of male chromosomes or paternal chromosomes. Haploid number of paternal chromosomes are present in the nucleus. This nucleus occupies majority of the region in the This nucleus occupies majority of the region in the head, and this is a triangular or pyramid shaped nucleus. Actually, in the spermatid, the nucleus is spherical, but that spherical nucleus is modified into a triangular or pyramidal shaped nucleus. Okay, that is also a modification. In the spermiogenesis, how various structures of spermatid modifies and form the sperm that I am giving now. So already I told you, the Golgi bodies of spermatid are modified into acrosome, and the spherical nucleus of spermatid is modified into a triangular nucleus of a sperm, or a pyramidal nucleus of a sperm. So the two modifications already I gave him. Acrosome is a modified Golgi body. The triangular nucleus is a modified spherical nucleus of spermatid. And if you observe here, there is a plasma membrane, this yellow colored. The plasma membrane which is present around the spermatid is elongated. The plasma membrane is elongated and occupies the head region. That occupies the head region, that you have to remember. So head is completed. The first part in the sperm, head, is completed, which is a site of carrying of male genetic material. Okay, so the paternal haploid number of chromosomes are present in the head region. This is the only part which enters inside the ovum. This is the part, nucleus. Nucleus is the part which will enter into the ovum, into the cytoplasm of the ovum during the fertilization. That you have to remember. And after completion of head, there is a short neck, the shortest part. Here, very short. And you may consider this as a shortest part in the shortest what is the shortest part? Neck. Okay. See, in the neck, there are two centrioles present. In the neck, two centrioles are present. That's also a very important one. Here observe carefully. There are two centrioles present in the neck region. This is the one, and this is the another centriole. So how many centrioles are there in the neck region? Two centriole. The centriole which is located towards the nucleus is proximal centriole. The centriole which is located towards the middle piece, distal centriole. The anterior centriole is proximal centriole, and the posterior centriole is distal centrioles. So neck possesses two centrioles. What are the two centrioles that present in the neck region here? The anterior one is proximal centriole, and the posterior one is distal centriole. So how many centrioles are present in the neck region? In the neck, there are two centrioles. The anterior is proximal centriole and the posterior is distal centriole. Okay, that you have to remember. How these centrioles are produced, or how these centrioles are formed in the neck region of the sperm? Actually, the centrosome of spermatid is modified into centrioles. The centrosome. Already two modifications we discussed. Now the third one. Centrosome of spermatid modified into centrioles in the sperm. This is the spermiogenesis. During spermiogenesis, that is modification of spermatid into sperm. What are the changes that takes place in the spermatid that I am giving? So first, the plasma membrane elongated and that occupy the head region. Before that, actually spermatid is a spherical cell, a spherical structure. That spherical structure modified into a cylindrical or elongated sperm. Spermatid is a spherical, but that is modified into elongated or cylindrical sperm. How it takes place? By the condensation of cytoplasm. The cytoplasm which is present in the spermatid will condense. That will convert the spherical spermatid into a long or cylindrical sperm. Okay. For example, see if it is a spermatid which is spherical, how this spherical spermatid is modified into the sperm. So here, by the elongation, by the condensation and elongation of cytoplasm, this spherical spermatid is modified into long or cylindrical sperm. By condensation and elongation of cytoplasm. By condensation and elongation of cytoplasm, this spherical spermatid is modified into a long or cylindrical sperm. And after that, plasma membrane also elongated and that occupies around the head region. And after, the Golgi bodies are modified into acrosome. The spherical nucleus is modified into a triangular or pyramidal nucleus. The centrosome of spermatid is modified into two centrioles, proximal and distal centrioles. What is the use of these centrioles that are present in the neck region? What is the use of centrioles that are present in the neck region here? So these two centrioles, the proximal centriole is essential to begin the cleavages in the zygote. See, proximal centriole will enter into the ovum along with the nucleus at the time of fertilization. At the time of fertilization, along with this nucleus, the proximal centriole also enters into the cytoplasm of the ovum. Later, this ovum will modify into zygote. So, proximal centriole will enter into zygote. Proximal centriole will enter into zygote. Immediately after formation, zygote will begin repeated mitotic divisions within 24 hours that are known as cleavages. Already I gave you the repeated mitotic divisions that takes place in the zygote that converts unicellular zygote into multicellular embryo. So that is known as cleavage divisions, cleavages. So for cleavages, which is essential? Proximal centriole. Proximal centriole play an important role in the first cleavage, especially in the first cleavage, because centrioles are absent in the ovum. Centrioles are absent in the ovum. These centrioles are essential for cell division. Centrioles are essential for the cell division, for the formation of spindle fibers. These centrioles are essential. Without centriole, there is no chances for cell division in the animal cells. So, in the ovum, centrioles are absent. Because of that, the proximal centriole of sperm will enter into the ovum and it will begin the first cleavage that play an important role in the first cleavage or first mitotic is in the zygote, that is proximal centriole. We will discuss that at the time of discussing about the fertilization, but just remember, what is the role of proximal centriole? Proximal centriole play an important role in the first cleavage. Proximal centriole play an important role in the first cleavage. That you have to remember, ma. Very, very important one. That is. What about a distal centriole here? Distal centriole. This distal centriole is actually act as a basal granule or basal body for the formation of axial filament. For the formation of axial filament, it play an important role. That also you have to remember. Okay. The axial filament. See here, it is a proximal centriole. From this proximal centriole, there is arising of the axial filament, which acts as a flagellum-like structure and play an important role in the motility of sperm. With the help of this only, sperm can move. What is that? Axial filament. So, to form this axial filament, distal centriole act as a basal granule or basal body. Basal body or basal granule. To form axial filament, this distal centriole act as a basal body or basal granule. That you have to remember. Okay. So that is also one of the very important point that you have to notice there. Right? The functions of this completed here. Proximal centriole, distal centriole, but proximal centriole arranged in right angles to the main axis or central axis of the sperm. Distal centriole arranged parallel to the central axis of the sperm. That you have to remember. So from where the axial filament of the sperm arises. The axial filament of sperm arises from the distal centriole. This axial filament act like a flagellum. Okay, act like a flagellum and helps in the motility of the sperm. So that is about it acts as a distal centriole act as a basal body or basal granule for the arising of axial filament. So second part, neck also completed. In the neck, what are the topics here? You have to remember here is proximal centriole and distal centriole and their location, their functions. After completion of that, the next region here, middle piece. What's the next one? Middle piece. In middle piece, mainly here in the middle piece, the mitochondria arranged in the form of a spiral around the mitochondria is arranged in the form of a spiral around the axial filament. So the mitochondria which is present in the spermatid will modify in the form of a mitochondrial spiral around the axial filament. It is spiral mitochondria or mitochondria spiral. Spiral mitochondria or mitochondria spiral. This spiral mitochondria, which is present in the middle piece, is known as Nebenkan sheet. Nebenkan sheet. So the spiral mitochondria, which is present in the middle piece, the spiral mitochondria, which is present in the middle piece of the sperm, is known as Nebenkan sheet. Important one. What is Nebenkan sheet? The spiral mitochondria, which is present around the axial filament of the sperm, is known as mitochondria spiral or Nebenkan sheet. Nebenkan sheet by the name of the scientist one. So Nebenkan sheet it is the spiral mitochondria present around the axial filament in the middle piece is Nebenkan sheet. Is it clear? Right, Nebenkan sheet completed. And here in the cytoplasm, in the middle piece, the mitochondria is in the form of spiral already. I told you. This is the site of energy. This is the only site of energy production. So, which act as a powerhouse of energy in the cell, that is mitochondria. Where the mitochondria is present in the sperm, that is in middle piece. So, middle piece contain mitochondria. That mitochondria provide energy for the spermatozoa, for the motility of spermatozoa and other activities of spermatozoa. Whatever the energy is required, that will be provided by this spiral mitochondria. So one more modification is spermiogenesis I gave you here. The mitochondria of spermatid is modified into a spiral mitochondria or Nebenkan sheet. A spiral mitochondria or Nebenkan sheet in the middle piece of the sperm. In the middle piece of the sperm, that you have to know. And here the cytoplasm is condensed. The cytoplasm is like this, condensed. And this condensed cytoplasm is the condensed cytoplasm here. The condensed cytoplasm is also covered by a thin sheet, a thin membrane. The condensed cytoplasm in the middle piece, the condensed cytoplasm in the middle piece is also covered by a thin membrane known as manchete. What is manchete? The thin membrane which covers the condensed cytoplasm of the middle piece. The thin membrane which covers the condensed cytoplasm of middle piece. Understood what is manchete? The thin membrane which covers the cytoplasm of the middle piece is known as manchete. So manchete is completed. Nebenkan sheet also completed. What is Nebenkan sheet? The mitochondria, which is in the form of mitochondrial spiral present around the axial filament in the middle piece, is known as Nebenkan sheet. Right? So how many centrioles are there in the neck region, ma? There are 2 centrioles in the neck region already I gave you. But if you observe here, at the ending of middle piece, there is one more centriole. There is one more centriole. So here this is known as ring centriole. At the ending of middle piece, there is one more centriole which is known as ring centriole, the function of which is still unknown. The function of this ring centriole is still unknown. So total how many centrioles are there in a sperm? 3 centrioles. 2 in neck region, 1 in middle piece. In the neck region, there is proximal centriole and distal centriole, but at the ending of middle piece, there is ring centriole. That also you have to remember. So middle piece also completed. Next, after completion of middle piece, the longest part in the sperm is tail. Tail is the longest part of sperm. Okay. So again, it is divided into two parts. The tail is divided into two parts. The anterior part is known as main piece, and the posterior part is end piece, main piece and end piece. Main piece and end piece. See, here it is just only axial filament is there. Axial filament only present, but there is no any fibrous tissues and all. So that you have to remember there. So here in the tail region, see here it is main piece. In the main piece, there is plasma membrane. In the main piece, plasma membrane is there. Along with plasma membrane, inside cytoplasm also present. Main piece contain plasma membrane and cytoplasm. Plasma membrane and cytoplasm. But end piece contain only axial filament. This is what? Axial filament. Axial filament. Axial filament. So here axial filament. The axial filament acts as a flagellum that helps in the locomotion or that helps in the motility of sperm. So the tail is the longest part, which is divided into two parts, main piece and end piece. Main piece contain plasma membrane and cytoplasm along with that axial filament. But whereas in the end piece only the axial filament is present, there is no cytoplasm and plasma membrane. What is the use of tail? Tail is the structure that is essential for the motility or movement of spermatozoa. So this tail acts like a flagellum. Okay. So here the arrangement of microfilaments. So here arrangement of microfilaments or microtubules here. In the flagellum there is 9+2 arrangement of microfilaments are there. So how microfilaments are arranged? The microtubules are the microfilaments. The microtubules are microfilaments. The arrangement is important, ma. How that are arranged in the flagellum and cilia? 9+2 arrangement. So the arrangement of these microfilaments or microtubules arrangement is important. How the microtubules are arranged here. 9+2 arrangement. What is this 9+2 arrangement? There are total 11 microtubules are there or microfilaments are there. In that 9 are arranged in the peripheral region as a ring. 9 are arranged like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Total 9 are arranged like a circle or a ring. And remaining 2 are located at center. 2 arranged at center, 9 arranged in a circle. So that is arrangement of microtubules. And how the microtubules are filaments arranged in the flagellum. There is 9+2 arrangement in the flagellum. 9+2 arrangement in the flagellum. Same arrangement is there in the axial filament also. Same arrangement of microtubules or microfilaments is present in the axial filament. Axial filament. Because of that, axial filament is similar to flagellum. Similar to flagellum. So that you have to remember. Is it clear? So that is the structure of sperm. How many flagellated structures? How many tails are there? There is only one tail. But in some organisms, 2 tails are there. Okay, biflagellated. That are biflagellated. But in some there is no tail. So there is no tail also there in some of the organisms. So just remember this, what we discussed here in the structure of sperm. We discussed the structure of human sperm. Here it is about 52 to 62 microns in length. It has 4 parts: head, neck, middle piece, and tail. Head is anterior most part. It has acrosome and nucleus. In the neck region, it is the shortest part. It has 2 centrioles, proximal and distal centriole, and middle piece possesses the spiral mitochondria or Nebenthal sheath. Along with that, it is covered by manchete. At the ending of this middle piece, there is a ring centriole with unknown function, and tail, which is similar to flagellum because it possesses 9+2 arrangement of microtubule structures, and it has the main piece and end piece. And the axial filament it works like a flagellum that helps in the motility or locomotion. Acrosome is a modified Golgi body of the spermatid. The pyramidal nucleus is a modified spiral nucleus. And Nebenthal sheath or spiral mitochondria is also modified mitochondria of the spermatid. The centrosome of spermatid is modified into proximal and distal centrioles here. And the cytoplasm is condensed and elongated that converted the spherical spermatid into a long cylindrical sperm. That is what happened during the spermiogenesis. That is modification of immotile non-functional spermatid into motile functional sperm. Okay, so this you have to remember. In next class we will discuss about the structure of female gametes and types of gametes. Some more details you have to know about the sperm, and after that we will go for that. Thank you.